The content of this podcast is provided for general informational purposes only and is not intended as, nor should it be considered a substitute for professional medical advice.
Sweaty and pissed. Menopause makes me sweaty and pissed.
Hello, everybody. Here we are. Sweaty and Pissed, Menopause and More. I'm Leanne Morgan, comedian, and
I'm Karen Nickell, yes, nurse practitioner.
Yes, I was fixing to say not COVID patient. I don't want to say that, but
thank goodness.
At home. I'm just at home, bored out of my mind. Okay. So everybody, thanks so much for all the support we have had, and everybody listening. And we've got a lot of nifty things that we're going to do in the future that we'll talk to you about. But for today, we are going to talk about something kind of freaky. Well, I don't know if it is. Karen told me what it is, and I have not been able to look it up, but I am excited to know what it is, but it sounds frightening. Is it?
Well, and you know, the thing is, unfortunately, it's pretty common. So we're going to talk.
Probably got it. Okay.
We are going to talk about bacterial vaginosis, often referred to as BV for bacterial vaginosis. And we did have I almost said patient, a listener who on Facebook asked about what she can do to address recurrent bacterial vaginosis, which can happen. Sometimes when we get BV, you get into this cycle where you just can't seem to get rid of it. And then all of a sudden it'll go away and that's the end of it. So it's a sort of a mysterious ailment because, you know, for a long time they said, oh, it's not sexually transmitted. Now they're saying, well, maybe it is sexually transmitted. But it's what BV is. Well, let me back up and start talking about the normal vaginal flora, because we do have bacteria in our vagina that's supposed to be there. And it's a bacteria called lactobacillus. And sometimes if our pH gets out of balance, it will kill off the lactobacillus and other bacteria can grow, because the lactobacillus helps keep bad bacteria and yeast under control. So our vagina has a pH of about 4 to 4.5. So it's low. It's pretty acidic. And bacteria that grows in the vagina that's not supposed to be there is it likes a high pH. And the byproducts of its living there creates a high pH. So by being there, they sort of create their own little pH home that is happy for them. So a lot of it is about getting the pH down so the bacteria that we don't want there can't survive. So are you with me so far, Leanne?
Yes, I am.
So sometimes that imbalance will happen like after a period, or sometimes after intercourse. It will shift, and that other bacteria that we don't want in there is able to proliferate or grow. Gardnerella is the most common bacteria that causes BV. We have some other bacteria that we don't see as much, but can be there causing BV. But Gardnerella is the most common one. So when we have bacterial vaginosis, the symptoms people tend to have include usually a real watery discharge, so sometimes sort of grayish watery discharge, and often a fishy odor. That's the
well, that would be, yeah, that'd be a booger, a bad symptom. But you know, I feel like, Karen, is that maybe I'm going around with BV, but now I don't think, is that something that happens in every age, or is that something, because I can remember that might happening when I was younger and still had a period.
Yeah, it does tend to happen more often with people who are still having their periods. But in menopausal women if you're not replacing estrogen or you have low estrogen levels in the vaginal tissues, it makes you more susceptible to vaginitis, either caused by bacteria or yeast, because it's just sort of a barren wasteland. We don't have the good bacteria there and as much, and the tissues are just not as healthy. So we can be susceptible for that reason. But the pH shift is more likely to happen with someone having a period monthly or whenever. So those are there are some bacteria that cause BV where we don't get the fishy odor, but Gardnerella, most of the time, we have a fishy odor. That's one of the things that people will complain about most. And then just a lot of discharge, real watery. So, and we have medications to treat BV. We usually use a vaginal medication, either an antibiotic called metronidazole vaginally, or clindamycin vaginally are the two we use most often. We do have a newer product that is metronidazole that is called Solasec, and it is a one dose treatment, oral treatment. And so people love that because they don't have to do vaginal gels or creams for 5 to 7 days. I know. Yeah, because metronidazole we usually do for 5 days and clindamycin usually 7 to 10 days. So the Solasec is much easier, but since it's a branded medication, it's pricier too. So we have some easy treatments, but the problem is, as one of our listeners was asking about, is what do I do if it just, I treat it, it gets better for a couple weeks or a few weeks, and then it's back again. I have my period and it's back again. So there are some things that I recommend for people who are having recurrent BV. One is to do like a vaginal treatment for 5 to 7 days, depending on what medication we use. And then I have people dose it once a week for several weeks, sometimes longer, depending on how long it's been going on. And that tends to get things reset. I also ask them to take a probiotic that is designed for vaginal health. So basically, it's lactobacillus in a capsule that you take orally. So we have a brand called Pro B that would be at just any grocery store. It'd be in the area where you look for
Tampons and all that.
And Monistat and stuff like that. It's called Pro B. And or you can go into a health food store and they'll have several different products that are for vaginal health. So taking a probiotic to replace that good bacteria, while you're also treating to get rid of the bad bacteria, really helps get that under control. And some people, I even have them take a capsule of good bacteria and a lactobacillus probiotic and empty it into some warm water in a douche bag. I know, and people are like, well, where do I find a douche bag these days? But anyway, and just actually douche with some warm water and the probiotic itself.
So. No, I just think of douchebag, and my daughters will call like some cheesy guy that won't leave them alone a douchebag. It's been so long since I've even thought about. So where do you get a douchebag? Where do you get that?
I think you probably have to order them online at this point. I don't know that they just be sitting on the shelf anymore. They might have them at a pharmacy, but sitting on the shelf. But so now we have so many things like the Vagisil, where it's in a pre-dispensed bottle for. And I'm not a proponent of douching for vaginal health, but this would be just to try to get some good bacteria in the vaginal area. So doing that can really help. The probiotic is a really big deal. There are some over-the-counter options like boric acid suppositories, vaginal suppositories. You can actually get those over the counter that help bring the pH down to a more acidic range. There are also products like Refresh, which is Refresh spelled REPHRESH. So clever little pH thrown in there. And it is a vaginal gel that you insert 2 to 3 times a week, and it brings the pH down. So sometimes I'll have people do the antibiotic treatment, metronidazole or clindamycin, followed by the use of Refresh weekly for several weeks, just to get the pH in balance. So, bacterial vaginosis, it's important to treat it because it can put you at more risk for other STDs. We see that BV we commonly see it in addition to other STDs like chlamydia or gonorrhea. So, and on that point, if you have a vaginal discharge and you think, well, I'll just try some boric acid suppositories and a probiotic, and if it's not getting better, it needs to be checked out, because it could be chlamydia, it could be gonorrhea, it could be something else that needs to be treated. So you need to see either your primary care or your GYN for a swab. They can take a swab and send it off, and we can see exactly what we're dealing with. So anything that doesn't respond to over-the-counter treatments, don't wait months. If you're treating it and in 2 to 3 weeks it's still a problem, you just need to have that checked out. So, yeah, I would say the recurrent thing is a big issue for people. Some people just really battle it, and like I said, they'll battle it for a year, and then it'll get better, and I don't know. So,
oh wow,
it's interesting.
So it's got the same symptoms, really, as a yeast infection.
Well, not really, because in studies about bacterial vaginosis, most of the people in the study didn't complain of burning or itching. It's just the discharge and the fishy odor often. But I have seen people who've had BV who do have burning, more so than itching, just sort of a burning, because the tissues just get irritated. So with yeast, we typically have a lot more itching, sometimes burning. And usually that discharge, if you have a yeast discharge, is like a white, thick, like cottage cheesy kind of discharge.
Mm-hmm. I have 2 daughters, and they'll talk about their friend so and so's got a yeast infection. It seems like everybody's got a yeast infection. I mean, that is just so common, and I'm just gotten to an age where, I can get them, but I don't. That must be more common in young girls. And
I think a lot of times people, when I see patients, they come in and they say, I've got a yeast infection, and I check them and they actually have BV instead of a yeast infection. So sometimes I think those two get confused, but also yeast is more likely to grow if you have a lot of sugar in your diet, a lot of alcohol in your diet, a lot of fast carbs in your diet. If your blood sugar's up.
That makes sense for college age girls, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if everybody's out at a mixer,
yeah,
drinking beer, and they're, eating pizza and bagels.
Yeah. They often have a yeast promoting diet. Yeah. If they cut all that out, they'd have a lot of yeast die off probably. So,
Oh, they'd have to take to the bed in the sorority house. Every time you talk about something, I think now in my mind that I've got it. I wonder if I've got BV.
well,
Lord.
what I would say is, when we do pap smears, if there's any yeast or bacterial vaginosis present, they make a note on the pap smear. So even if people are asymptomatic and we do a pap, and because sometimes you'll have yeast or bacteria present and it's not even visible on exam, but it's there. So on pap smears, they will say yeast present or bacterial shift consistent with bacterial vaginosis present. So sometimes we catch it that way. So even if you were asymptomatic, if you had that on your pap smear, we would be notifying you.
Okay, so if you've got BV, do you need to be on go and get a medication, or can you just do the going to the store getting a probiotic for your vagina?
You could try it. You could absolutely, especially if you're asymptomatic or you have mild symptoms, if you want to try just doing a good probiotic, vaginal health probiotic, and something to bring the pH down, like Refresh or boric acid suppositories. I would do both to get that healthy again. But yeah, that's an option for sure. And I think our listener was wanting to know if there were some over-the-counter options. There are even some over-the-counter BV treatment options that are not boric acid. They're like a combination of essential oils that are antimicrobial. So there are some things like that out there too, that you just use like 3 suppositories in a row, and and that's it. I mean, the treatment is like a 3 suppository treatment.
But it's made with essential oils.
Mm-hmm.
Where in the world would you get that? At a health food store?
Yeah, or online. There's some companies online, and but a health food store has a lot of that stuff. So I think something like that, typically, I would say it would be safest to do that if you have the type of BV that causes a fishy odor, because if the fishy odor goes away, it's been treated. So it's a good way to define whether you've knocked it out or not. Does that make sense? So yeah, so a lot of it is about, the biggest thing is just pH balance, and I think a lot of that has to do with diet and just how the American diet, really.
Man, it's everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the pH, so to have that in order, no, like low carb, low sugar, all those things, all those bad foods. If everybody just sat and ate fruits and vegetables,
yeah,
and what God
good
put on this
protein.
earth,
Yeah, that would help.
And probably, not have multiple partners. Hey, no judgment here. I'm just saying, if you're worried about chlamydia and all that going into that's a lot during the COVID. That's a lot of stress. Maybe, narrow it down to just one dude, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I think, multiple partners does put you at increased risk for, of course, chlamydia, gonorrhea, HIV, herpes, blah, blah, blah. But it also increases your risk for BV, for sure. So yeah, that would help too, reducing the number of partners. I think that's been happening since COVID, since everybody's homebound,
Yeah, you can't get out and cat around
Yeah,
in a tube top or a crop top. I saw on I was looking on Twitter this morning and one of the style things that I follow said that, oh, Katie Holmes had on the cutest crop top and it's on sale right now. And she's the one that was married to Tom Cruise and had to get out because of Scientology, I guess. And she had that baby by him. That's all weird. Anyway, she was in a crop top and I thought, how old is Katie Holmes now? Good for her. She can wear a crop top. I could not wear one because I've got that big hernia scar. My crop top days are over. So if the COVID was over, of course I'm a married woman, but I would not be out catting around looking for but I don't have any estrogen.
well,
So that's the last thing I'd be looking for.
well, you could get a big tattoo over that scar.
Oh, mercy. Can you imagine? It's got a bulge in it. Oh, they'd have to come up with a tattoo that needs a bulge in it too. Maybe I don't even know what. I can't even think. Maybe
like a pregnant woman, a tattoo of a pregnant woman.
maybe a tattoo of a pregnant woman or a big bear. Maybe. I don't know. But anyway, all right. Is there anything else you need to tell all these precious
So
people?
one other thing is, as I said, sometimes the period will trigger it. So sometimes just doing a dose or two of Refresh vaginally the week after the period will help get that pH reset for the month. So you're not, trying to fix things after they've already gotten worse, so it's a little bit prevention technique of just doing a couple doses of the over-the-counter Refresh vaginally the week after your period. That will also help prevent BV from happening. So that's a little tip too.
Okay, but if somebody has burning, a fishy odor, they can't seem to get a hold of it, they need to call their provider.
Yeah. And the discharge. Yeah. So, do we want to talk about what's in the pipeline for Sweaty and Pissed?
Are you talking about merchandise? We're talking about doing a fun t-shirt and I don't know, maybe some other things, but we do have the colorful logo and I do love a comfy t-shirt to sleep in, to lounge in, to just throw on with a mask to the grocery store. So that is so fun. I'm excited about that. Forrest really picked out some cute colors, Forrest. But anyway, we're thinking, pink or something fun. So what do you think about that?
So we'll have a link in the episode description on the app you're using to listen to your podcasts, and on our Facebook page and on our website. And we'll have socks and totes and who knows what all. But if you want some Sweaty and Pissed merchandise, we've got it for you. Thanks to Forrest for getting it organized.
Well, and I would hope, I'm sure that we're going to have sizes for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
They go from probably XS to XXXXL. And so, women like a big t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
I've never wanted to wear a tight t-shirt. Well, I did in the 80s, but I do think women love, something fun to lounge in. And who's not sweaty and pissed?
Yeah, exactly. And there's all kinds of designs of t-shirts too. So you can pick your favorite style.
This little woman said to me on Facebook, I posted that our last episode, and she said, "Love you, Leanne. Love your comedy. I think that's a really unladylike name." I didn't, and I wanted to. I don't know what her name was, Joanne. I don't know, but I almost responded, and I thought I'm so tired. But if anybody, let me explain. My 21-year-old, she's now 22. I said, I've got to name this podcast. What do you think? She goes, Sweaty and Pissed, because you're sweaty and pissed all the time. And my little mama, and I was raised that pissed was a cuss word, and I still believe it is. And I don't say a lot of cuss words, and I don't, I'm not into cuss words, and I don't say them on stage. And so it was kind of a tug at my heart, honey, when we named it Sweaty and Pissed. And I apologized to my little mama Lucille. And I said, Mama, I know it's a cuss word in the state of Tennessee. She was like, okay, all right. So I just want to say to all of y'all out there that I just don't know any other better way to describe menopause. To me, perimenopause and menopause is just, I just was sweaty and pissed. And so anyway, that's that. All that to say, it's going to be on a T-shirt now. So I hope the ones that are offended, I'm so sorry. I've apologized to my mother, and I prayed about it, and that's all I can do.
My patients all the time say, "Oh, I love that name. That's so perfect. It's so right." So mostly we get good feedback on it.
Yeah,
so.
I'm normally people go, "Oh my gosh, that kills me." It's just every once in a while, a little woman who's, she's home during the COVID and probably in yeast die off, or she's pissed. And so it's okay. It all comes with it. That's okay. She wasn't mean about it. She really wasn't. It was just like, that's unladylike. But love you, Leanne. Hope to see a show sometime. So I'm okay with it. It's all right. All right. Well, is there anything else that we need to talk about?
I think we're good. I think we make sure to check out the merchandise. We'll make sure you have the link to do so. And I'll try to put together maybe a list of over-the-counter treatment regimens that we talked about today on our website in the blog portion.
Okay, so check our merchandise and check your vagina. Okay. All right. Till the next time.
It's good to be with you.
It's good to be with you and good to be with y'all. Thank y'all so much for supporting us.
Yes. Stay well and be safe. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.